morning. My name is Tracy Cook and welcome to the podcast series Victim to Victory. This series gives a voice to those that have overcome obstacles in all forms, but dare greatly to share their real stories. Amazing humans that have seen hope and risen above those adversities to go on to become victorious, that now support and inspire others to do the same. And today we are giving a voice to Ria Mestiza. Yes, I got her name right. That is fantastic. So Ria Mestiza, thank you very much for joining us on the Victim to Victory podcast series. Now, I've got a little bit to tell you about Ria before we jump into her story that is really going to inspire and empower and show you what is actually possible. And it's a very personal story. So let me share with you about Ria. She, basically for the last 10 years, has been a mind, body, and performance coach, which is fantastic, transforming the lives of her clients by helping them understand their bodies and why and how they can actually optimize their wellness and performance without the one-size-fits-all approach. This is so important, people. This is very, very important for yourself. Now, prior to that, she was training in events and was an events manager for a global marketing company by day. She's a busy woman, and a stage manager, DJ, and dancer on the club scene by night. Okay, so she knows how to make things happen, everybody. Her background is Italian and Filipino, and she's loved singing and basketball ever since she could walk and talk. She is a powerhouse. Welcome to the Victim to Victory podcast series, Ria. And I would like to say, welcome. Who is Ria and where does your story start?
Thanks, Tracy, for having me. Who is Ria? Well, that's a really good question because Ria has been trying to discover who she is for the last, let's just say since I had got divorced in 2013, I believe it was. You know, there's something about going from a we to an I that makes you reevaluate who you are and just who you are when it's just you and there's no constraints and there's no expectations and you're free and able to do whatever your heart desires. So I really have had, and that was a 10-year relationship. So it was a really a time of exploration for me, spiritually, personally. I was commencing my new career in the health and wellness space, around about that time as well, 2011. And I had a lot to learn and I'm still learning. It's probably taken me this long to truly get back to my roots and connect back to that inner child of who Ria truly is at her essence and in her soul.
Well, we're all on that journey of self-discovery and peeling back those layers and looking in the mirror and being totally honest with ourselves, especially when we go from a we to an I. That can be quite daunting. So talk us through a couple of things that actually happened as part of that process.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but the best decision I've ever made, for both of us. It was just... I really was lost, to be honest. I was really lost. There was just so much to financially lost. I had to move back home with my parents. So it's like, it's not something you want to do when you're in your late 20s and you're just like, no, now what am I doing? And where am I going? You really feel like when you have an expectation that, you're going to get married and have children and then you're going to live happily ever after. It's a bit sort of like my parents, they got married, they had me and they've been married ever since. And it's like, when it doesn't work out like the fairy tale you expect it to be, it's kind of, disheartening until the point where you realize the opportunities that it now leads you to. So
Yeah.
It was a rocky time.
Yeah, setting those expectations too. I mean, we say, you know, we're going to live happily ever after, and we so believe that. And when we step out of that expectation of self-discovery of, okay, well, this is what I thought I was. Was I really that ever? Was I really ever actually going to live happily ever after? And then going back and reliving all of those moments as well, especially after you separate. Is that something that you done as well?
Yeah. And even up until recently, to be honest, because, you know, initially it was reflection on that relationship, reflection between, you know, it was my first love, you know, 17 years old, and there was a lot of growing that was to be done. And there was a lot of growing that was done independently of each other, let alone together, and just sizing up the pieces, which pieces are actually me, and, you know, what were him, and, where do I want to go, and what do I want to be, and what do I want my life to truly be? Because it's in my hands now, you know, it's I get to write the next chapter of my book. And to be honest, you know, you and I were supposed to do this podcast a couple of weeks ago. And I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. Not to say that the reason was a good one, but it was an interesting, let's call it, quote, coincidence, which you and I'm sure you don't believe in it just as much as I do. And because
the universe provides.
Exactly right. And, you know, it's funny because I was having a conversation with a fellow coach of mine, and she's very much a spiritual healer as well. And I felt called to tell her something, and she felt called to do an energetic check-in, let's say. And she just said, you still have victim programming. And this kind of took me by surprise, because you and I were meant to have this conversation like literally the next day. And I said, well, that's ironic, because I'm speaking on a victim to victory and I've still got victim programming. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, I don't feel like a victim anymore. I feel like I've really overcome so much. I feel like I'm on top of the mountain, like with my arms there, victorious. And so it gave me a little bit of an extension to go inside and search further into why I may have still had that victim programming. And so it was a very curious concept that she just threw at me. And so I've had a couple of weeks to look in a little bit deeper, and I really have overcome that victim programming, because I realize it stems from literally as early as 5. And when I think back to the Ria, you know, from birth to 5, or what I can remember of it, obviously. And, you know, I just was so happy and friendly and full of life and singing and dancing. You know, my parents were even actually worried about me, because like I'd be in the front yard and strangers would walk by and I'd start talking to them, and they're like, oh my goodness, she's going to get kidnapped. Like, you know, I was just I was so full of life. And then I realized that I was different. And it's that interesting thing where, you know, children, they don't understand diversity and difference and colors and nationalities. And I won't say unfortunately, because I wouldn't change a thing, because everything that I've gone through is made me who I am. So to just say that from 5 onwards is when I really started to realize I was different and I didn't fit in. And so that began for me the journey of intention to fit in and to create acceptance and love from people to accept me for who I was. But I don't think I really knew who that was. I was just trying to make sure that I was receiving love, and that I was worthy of that friendship and adoration from people. So yeah, that was the big eye opener for me, just out of coming onto your podcast, Tracy, like, and it's been empowering. Just when you think you've done all the work, and then there's another layer.
That's it. And I think when we grow up and we see that we're not quite the same as a lot of other people, which a lot of entrepreneurs, let's face it, it's kind of a commonality, right? It's like I grew up thinking I was different, and it's more of a unique than different, I think.
100%.
I realized I was unique. I realized I was extraordinary. I realized I was special, as opposed to different. And you're still different, but you just don't know what kind of different you are until you go through all of those processes and the failures and the successes, and then you go, oh, that's why I'm exceptional. That's why I'm different. That's why I'm special. That's why I'm so unique. And I grew up thinking there was something wrong with me. And it's our programming, right? We grow up because with this social belief that if you're different, you're abnormal in some way. And a lot of people with disabilities kind of relate to that. But when we actually step back and have a look, then those people that are embracing those people that are different and unique and extraordinary, they're the ones that go on to do exceptional things like you are today. Talk us through that. Was school fun? Was it hard? What was that like?
School was hard. And I don't even think it was hard academically, because in primary school, I excelled in school and in sports. I loved everything about what the program of school was. What I didn't enjoy was interacting with other children, because I don't know if it was just, the demographic of people that I went to school with. Again, I'm half Filipino, half Italian. So I didn't fit in with the Europeans, and I didn't fit in with the Asians. And so I was, and I don't look like a typical Aussie. So I really didn't enjoy primary school at all only for that reason, and I got bullied, and I, spent my lunch times in the library, and, I would even just hide somewhere. I just didn't want to be bothered by anybody, because, and I couldn't wait till it was home time. So primary school, that's a memory that I have from primary school. And I think that's probably why when I transferred to high school, I turned over a new leaf, and I decided I'm not going to be the kid that gets picked on. Now I'm going to be the cool kid, And
so you reinvented yourself.
I reinvented myself, and I was friendly to everyone. I was friends with everybody, So then, if you're friends with everyone, you don't get picked on, you don't get bullied. And the best thing that came out of that is all the different groups of people that I got to interact with, because now being different meant that I could hang out with the European group, and I could hang out with the Asian group, and I could hang out with the Aussie. I literally hung out with all the groups, and, I could hang out with the quote nerd groups. Like, I hung out with all the different people this time. So I went from hanging out with no one to hanging out with everyone. But what I got to bring to that table was that I did not tolerate bullying. And because I knew how much that hurt me. And so, even if I had friends that were bullying other people, I would stop it. Like, I wouldn't, I just, yeah. When you understand, that's when you have empathy for the people. You don't want to see that happen to anybody else.
Yeah, definitely. And I think anybody in any experience, if you've been through that, you're less likely to fall into a sheep or a pack mentality. You're different. You've been through an experience. So when a group of people are actually doing something, you kind of find your voice, don't you? You really do find your voice. It forces you in a way to find your voice and stick up for those that potentially are being bullied. What was finding your voice kind of like in that area?
In primary school, I found my I found my home with outside of school with other people of the same ethnicity. Why is that not coming out? You know what I mean? And then in high school, it took over my life so much so that I left my academic endeavors in the background, because I was so focused on my friendships and making sure that, I wasn't going to rock up at school the next day and then everyone's going to turn their back on me. Like, I focused my time and attention on my relationships with people. And the bonds that we had, and sports, which is again is team bonding and all these sorts of things, and my other recreational things. So yeah, finding my voice was interesting. So then I can kind of blend into every which group, but then I was always trying to I was a kind of rebel without a cause, really. When I think about it. So I was such a good girl in primary school. Like I was like such a good girl that they wanted to put me ahead a year, and I was like, no, I don't want people to know that I'm like a nerd. I want,
yeah.
I'm just
definitely.
gonna, so yeah, finding my voice. It was difficult because but it was beautiful because I had so much diversity in all the different influences in my life. And so I'm a multicultural mixed bag, and I appreciate all of the differences in everyone. And like I said, like, we're all unique and different. And that's what I appreciate about every interaction I have with people.
So do you think that's kind of part of your reason why you don't have kind of like a cookie cutter or one size fits all approach now in your current day?
Probably because I mean, you and I know that doesn't work, and I pride myself on giving the best of me that I can, and allowing people that platform to step up and be their best versions of themselves. So in order for them to do that, I need to bring my best, and I need to not just expect that, hey, if I give you this, like this worked for Mary Jane, and it's like this will work for you too. Like there's no pride in that for me. I take pride in what I do and believe in what I do.
And I'm really interested to see how much sports has impacted your life as well. Was it a stress relief? Was it showing other people how powerful you were? Was it a winner's mindset? Talk me through a bit of that about your sports.
Well, I grew up an only child because my mother only had me, but my father had two boys in his previous marriage. So apart from, your parents, friends, kids that you would interact with, it was mostly me, which is probably why I hate the books a lot, and also why I played sports. So I always enjoyed bowls, and particularly basketball. So ball sports. My father was a soccer player, professionally in Italy, and I loved his ball skills. So I would be outdoors practicing my ball skills, and then I would watch, Michael Jordan and then be like, oh my God, I want to be like Mike. And then, and then start practicing my skills and shooting, because it was very much part of the school life for me too. Sports, after school sports. I just loved sports, and that's even in primary school, even when I didn't get along so much with the other kids. But more so in high school, because I got to play with my friends and it was competitive, and the competitiveness is a big part of it, Tracy. Like I'm competitive in a good way. Like I still very much want, everyone around me to do well too. Like I'm a team player, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I want our team to win.
Yeah, definitely. So that's a winner's mindset. So, there's kind of like your fixed growth mindset, and then there's your growth mindset. And having that winner's mindset doesn't necessarily mean that someone has to lose for you to win, but it's still good to win. It's still good to go, yes, I done that. I set my mind on something. I tried my hardest and I came out on top. Good game, everyone. Just to be able to have that winner's mindset can set you up for many, many things, not only in your personal life, in your business life, in your relationships, just to optimize, like your wellness and your performance to be the best that you can, to be the best version of yourself, essentially, to push yourself, to the outer pages of your book. And I think that's a really healthy thing. Healthy competition is a really healthy thing. There's always somebody in kids' sports at school as well that's going to come first, second, and third, and there's going to be the ones that still need to keep trying. And the ones that have put in the effort and come first or second, third, they should be rewarded because they put in the effort. They became the best version of themselves to achieve something.
Definitely.
That might be a whole other whole other video.
Yeah. I put in a lot of time, and the beauty of being an only child, I guess, is because when I learned that I really love basketball and I wanted to be a good shooter and a good ball player, I practiced. I'd fall asleep with the ball next to me in my bed. That's how much I loved basketball. Like I play for hours. I was not good by fluke. I was good by sheer persistence and hard work. Truly, I put it in. I put in the work, and that's how I got good. That's why I was the girl that's got skills, like that's surpassing all these guys, and they're like, "What? How are you, this short girl?" But I'm quick and I got skill, and that's
and it didn't happen by chance.
No, 100%.
Now, I tell you something that I'm really interested in knowing about is the dancing, the DJ and the nightclub dancing. How did you get into that? What happened? Your working days, your working dancing night. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So if you know anything about Filipinos, they love music. And that's why I said I've been singing since I could talk. And dancing came with that as well, because even as a little kid, I have memories of having a toy microphone and imitating like Michael Jackson now, when he was doing like microphone tricks and singing. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm thinking that I'm like one of the Jackson 5. And so I always had that musical bug. I really thought it was actually going to be a career of mine. But so dancing, yeah, as I had a dance group when I was 8 years old. And I got, so this is my friendship groups outside of primary schools. I had friends and that also loved the same. So we had similar interests and we loved music and dancing, and I created a group and I was a choreographer. And so I studied dance. I was self-taught. I learned steps and I choreographed a whole dance, and we would perform places. Which back then I was a massive introvert, but my mum kept putting me into the spotlight. Bless her. I'm so thankful she did that. And I did all these performances, and I started to get momentum with it. And because my mum is, she's well known as a Filipino folk dancer here in South Australia. She is literally the go-to for any sort of multicultural Filipino traditional dancing. And so she made me do that. That was enjoyable, but it was just sort of like, oh, mom. And so I always had that experience with dance. And then when I was allowed to choose what I was dancing, it would always be like hip hop, and we'd have like our dance group, and it just went literally all the way until I was about 21. Yeah, so I really we did lots of different performances. By the time I was 18, our dance group, particularly me and my 2 cousins, we perform in nightclubs here in Adelaide. And then I moved to Melbourne when I was 21. And so this is the reinventing yourself again. I moved to Melbourne and I didn't really know too many people there, but I knew that one, I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. And so I did that by day. And then by night, I wanted to build a name for myself on the scene, because in Adelaide, I had a name for myself in the scene. People knew who I was. And so I needed to get myself known. And I started as the, let's say, door chick, as my foot in the door. And then I started doing promo, and I started working my way up the club scene ladder. So I was doing a lot of ladder climbing when I moved there, which was fun anyway, because, when you're 21, it's like you're all about partying and socializing and all this cool stuff. So it really wasn't work. It was more fun and exciting, because I actually didn't care what people thought of me, because no one knew me. I was in this new state and I could be and do whatever I wanted and not care about anything. I don't know, getting back to my family and friends back home. So I think that took the pressure off a little bit. And so I just started performing. So I lived with a model when I first lived there. And she was like, hey, I'm performing at this club. Do you want to, we need another dancer? And I said, sweet, let's do it. And so I started doing that. I would be very selective with what I would do. So I'm not dancing for tips. This is let's just be clear. And even if they wanted me to dress real skimpy as well, I was not a fan of that. I'm not going to be, coyote ugly where you can see out my skirt. That's not the kind of day. I love dancing, and it's an art, and it's an enjoyment, and it's not sleazy for me.
Yeah, fantastic. No, it's just so interesting, these phases that we go through and the reinventions of finding out who we are and following our passions and where do they lie in our future and where does it all kind of connect together. So maybe fast forward a bit for us, Ria, about where it all kind of came together, because you mentioned that, you know, a relationship breakdown. Did all of these kind of memories and reinventions start flooding back again? Because when we started at the beginning, you said you had to find yourself again. So there's all these sliding door moments where you're reinventing yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I don't want to you know, put anything negative on my ex. You know, we're both good people. We just didn't work together, you know, and we tried too long and too hard to make it work. And so I felt like a bird out of a cage, to be honest, you know, because he had expectations on me to be a certain way and to you know, appear a certain way in front of his family and friends. And I felt like I truly couldn't be myself sometimes, you know, like even as I said to my partner now, like when I used to wear, you know, I would put a cap on or a hat on and then he would be like, oh, nah, that doesn't suit you. And I'll be like, get paranoid about it, you know, and things like that. And it was kind of, you know, empowering because I'm just like, you know what, I want to wear a hat and I'm gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna wear it every which way I want to, and I'm gonna, like, you know, not care about what I want to wear. And you know, like I'm still gonna be a decent human being, but like if people want to judge that, then so be it. Like it's just starting to feel more comfortable in my own skin. And it was a beautiful process that, you know, and timing and reconnecting with a friend who was not even reconnecting. Like we knew each other when we were 10 or 12 years old, and all of a sudden we found ourselves one New Year's Eve, and you know, we ended up spending like the whole event. It was a music festival we were at, and till the end. And I was like, wow, this chick's pretty cool, you know. Like I didn't realize, like I never really got to bond with her before. And so this birthed this beautiful friendship. You know, now I see her like a sister because she really helped me through that time. You know, she gave me a safe place to go when I felt like I didn't want to go home to my husband at the time. And she gave me a place, to a retreat and someone to confide in, and to point out the obvious things about myself that I didn't see because, you know, my self-esteem wasn't very high. Yeah, she helped me a lot, and that communication with each other and spirituality.
Well, our good friends stab us in the front, don't they?
Yeah,
that's the way I always say. I say, you know, the fake friends will stab you in the back, the real friends will stab you in the front with love.
100%.
And sometimes we need it, you know. Sometimes we need it.
Yes.
So take us to where you are today. Take us to the impact that you're making in other lives and what the meaning of that is to you.
It really means everything to me. I'm so passionate about what I do, and I think it's so evident to anyone who actually gets to know me and work with me, is because I'm just so passionate about getting people results and helping them change their lives and transform and being better. And because I've been able to do that, you know, and like I said, I was really surprised when my friend said that I had victim programming, because I was like, no way. Like I feel so comfortable and loving in my own skin. Like I can truly say I love myself and I appreciate all that I have to bring. And I just have so much love and gratitude every day. And I'm like, no way I'm running victim programming. And then I think back and I was like, oh, well, yes, because you know that, you know, if something bad happens to you, then you can seek comfort and you can get love and you can get attention and you can do these things. If bad things happen to you, you have a story to tell. And, you know, and it's funny because when you're younger, like people thrive off gossip and things that bad things, you know, it's like the news. They want to hear all the bad things. Nothing good really sticks. So I'm just in a place where I'm so content, and I mean, I won't say content in a sense that I don't want to grow. Like I'm very present and I'm in the present moment and happy and blessed and thankful to have the people in my life that bring more joy to it, and to have a career that I can call a job, that and a business that, you know, it's like I had to make peace with the fact that I get paid to do what I love. you know, it almost feels wrong. Like, and I think I had to learn to actually receive that, like, because I'm such a giver. I'm like, here's all of me, take it all here. And then I actually had to learn to receive. And I'm like, I get paid to do this awesome stuff that I love to do. And then I get to learn, which then I get to teach, which helps people. And I have, you know, and I've got these platforms where I get to help and influence people. Cost me nothing, cost them nothing. What a lovely, amazing, you know, exchange that we get to bring to this universe. It's just, yeah. Did I summarize that okay?
It is. No, that's fantastic. And I think we all strive for that. We all, but it's all of that social programming, you know, you grow up, you go to school, you get married, you have a house, you have kids, and maybe you can work for 40 years and then you can do something that you actually like. And I think people are a lot more awake around that, think and know now that especially off the tail end of 2020, right? It's like, oh, maybe there is a different way. Maybe I can actually live my best life, or at least part of it, to be the best version of myself. And I just think that there's a lot more resources out there online. There's a lot more information. Sometimes, you know, we can go down that rabbit hole where there's too much information, but just to make people realize, to show people what is possible. That's what you have done. You've shown people, like in your own words just then, that you get to wake up every day and do a job that you love, and it almost feels wrong. You know, it
feels so right.
Every person's dream. It's every person's dream. So that journey of reinvention, that journey of self-discovery, you know, the roller coaster of life, the reinventions of Ria. Oh, that's a good book title, The Reinventions of Ria, or a podcast title. But I just think that it's just brought you to this beautiful, amazing space where you're just impacting so many other people. So you're investing, you're learning, you're teaching. And just the ripple effect of that alone, there's going to be so many other, you know, Ria's people that you've coached later on down the track that are potentially in 10 years going to be on a podcast or a video chat or something saying, well, I had this mentor that taught me how to love myself and be the best version of myself. And then what a beautiful world that makes.
Yeah. It honestly, like, when you get out of your own way and just, I absolutely love hearing that when my clients, you know, or even friends, they say, oh, I told this person about something you've taught me, and that changed their life. And I was like, incredible. So you're telling me, so you're talking about the ripple effect. It's like, I say something to you, you say something to someone else that helps them, and they never even know who I am. But, and that's totally fine, because it still makes me feel full. Right. And so, like, my client, even this morning, she was saying, I mean, she's a partner at a firm, and now she's leading like a woman empowerment group within the company that is predominantly males. And she's leading a women empowering leadership of equality within a company. And she's just kicking goals and on every level. And I was like, I'm not usually lost for words, but I'm super impressed with what you're doing right now. And she just turned around and said to me, Ria, you're a big influence for that. Like, you're the reason I've stepped up. And for watching everything that I do, you know, and she really listens to everything that I say. It's like, I told her how many books I read last year and like my goals for how many books I want to read this year. And she was just like, right. And she set one, and she's killing it. And like, in books, to transforming, and the knowledge she's learning. And it's wonderful to be able to have that impact. You know, I'm not doing this for the notoriety. Like, I don't care about that. But if someone hears this today and takes that and shares it with someone who needs it, or even if it just helps them feel that encouragement and inspiration to go after something that they want to do, that's amazing. Don't even have to ever tell me that. But but please do. I love hearing that as well. But yeah.
Definitely. So what kind of message would you like to leave our audience on today, Ria?
I'm going to steal the words of Oprah. Turn your wounds into wisdom. And that's probably been a massive lesson that I've learned, to wear my scars proudly. You know, like I said to you in the start, I wouldn't change anything, you know, because a lot of people, oh, you wasted 10 years in this relationship, or you wasted this, and oh my God, don't you have regret? And it's like, well, if I think, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it anyway. But if I didn't go through all of that stuff, then I wouldn't have had the lessons, and I wouldn't have had the growth and the experience to be able to connect and have compassion with people who have gone through all these sorts of things. So, yeah, wear your scars proudly.
I like that. I really like that. And I really appreciate you. I think you're an absolute rock star. You are definitely the change that the world needs to see and hear. And I know how much of an impact that you are having, especially in the health and wellness space, and your coaching and just the whole holistic approach. And it's absolutely fantastic to hear your story, your overcome and your reinventions, because this is the way forward. So if you're listening to this today, we will be sharing out Ria's link. Connect with her. She's got great energy. And thank you very, very much for being brave, once again, for sharing your story. And we'll be sharing where to connect with you. You are so appreciated. And you can find the Victim to Victory podcast series on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and our Facebook group. So please subscribe, like, and comment, and help be the change, just like my friend Ria here, that the world needs to see. And let me leave you with a message of step into your story, figure out who you are, and do it on purpose. Bye for now. Thanks, Ria.
Thanks, Tracy.